So this is video 2 in a 3-part series. Video 1, we talked about dry powder. We talked about how we attacked it, how others can attack it. There is no right or wrong answer, but you do need to create dry powder. Step 2 is equally important, but does leverage step 1, and that is you have to become elite at something. This is not a time for you to become the master of all, the generalist. If you are going to, certainly, like the three of us have a day job and you choose to, as a side hustle, do real estate, you have to become elite at your thing. For me, elite meant learn a new market I'd never been to. And that meant getting a buy box that was super focused and looking at that buy box for 3 years, 3.5 years straight. Means I ignored, it's permission to ignore everything else. But by 6 months, I knew 3 and 4 bedroom, 2 bath house, single story, 2-car garage, 1,250 to 1,750 square feet better than anybody else on the planet. And that allowed me to see quick deals, right? There was a time about month 6 or month 7, I could scroll through it, that buy box in 5 minutes or less, see what's new, and know what was value. And I think a lot of people get this wrong. They're too distracted. They have squirrels or butterflies. They're all over the place. You have to become unbalanced. Tiger Woods became the best golfer ever because he was unbalanced. Gary V content, you have to become unbalanced. Now, it's not unbalanced in everything, but if you're going to choose something that is going to be your thing to earn freedom, no, you're going to have to become unbalanced. At least that is my opinion. We'll start with Matt this time. What do you think about step number 2, becoming elite at something?
That's why I made my course, period, end of story. That's exactly why I made it. And so the saying is, everybody says, jack of all trades, master of none. They don't know the rest of it. Jack of all trades is a master of none, but a jack of all trades is better than a master of one. What it really means is that it's important to be a jack of all trades, but you need to do it in a vein. You need to do it in a specific discipline. So if it's housing and construction, boom, that's where it is. If it's gaming, boom, that's where it is. But it's the aspects of gaming, right? And so as you're looking at different things, and that's where for me it was, okay, I needed to become a master, but a jack as well. I had to get really good and elite at a bunch of different things. However, they were all in the same vein. And so for me, it was really understanding as I built my business, I needed to know how much wood floors cost versus LVP versus this versus that. And so when you get elite at that stuff, make sure you're getting elite at something that you can monetize. Either it's reducing your cost in your business or it's increasing your profitability. There's a lot of things that people put their time into that net them nothing. It nets them nothing. Yeah. And especially the momos who actually decide to post nasty things on my Market Insider articles. Go for it. I'm getting paid while I make fun of you. I'm getting paid to make fun of you. So I appreciate it because I'm getting paid no matter what. But get elite at something, but it's really in that vein. It's understanding one thing tackled, next thing tackled, next thing tackled, but it's all in a spectrum that serves the overall purpose. And if you can get elite at that, that's why I built the course about landlording specifically. Mike, you cover buying perfectly. There's no need to buy differently than how you teach people how to buy. If people have bought other ways and it's worked, great, fantastic. But that's an operation. You can get elite at that. But now how do you manage that asset the next 20 years? You can choose to do what you do, which is based on life. It makes sense for me to hire property managers and joy of my life. Or I need to at least know all of these things. That way I know I'm going to save and control costs for however long I own these assets. So I think you have to get elite at something that matters.
Yeah, I want to be very clear on this because I don't know if I've said this, and if I haven't, I should have. Our journey to financial freedom was about 15 years, 14, 15 years, depending on how you count it. Without question, if we were able to self-manage and that was something that would have fit our thing, it would have been much sooner.
Yeah,
we were giving up significant dollars every month, every year. Yep. Because again, I would argue it wasn't an option given the route that we chose, but there's a lot of people that will look at the two of us and have the option. Financial freedom will be done faster if you choose to self-manage. Just period, end of story.
And even faster, and you'll learn a whole lot more house hacking. Like, in all honesty, like that's why they dovetail into each other, because you can't run away from the guy next door.
No, exactly.
Like, he's
Yeah,
like, what do
call
you mean you
somebody
can't-
else.
Yeah. What do you mean you can't do it? Can't do it. I don't know how to, I don't know how to do it. I can't do it.
Yeah. So, Dion, what do you think about being elite at something is step number 2?
So I feel like I'm going to have to break the mold I've usually trapped myself
Of
into.
course.
I talk about being the lazy investor and having systems in place that make it to where I can self-manage 16 units in less than 2 hours a month. And we all have the ability to make this as simple or as complex as we want to. Right. So I go for simple. And the idea is, if you want to find the simplest way to do something, ask a lazy person, because we came up with it. And we figured out how to make it easy. So I'm going to break that mold and go a little more cerebral than I usually am. When I was running the truck driving school, I was in charge of curriculum development. We did cement, dump truck, passenger, hazmat, like every possible way relating a commercial driver's license to transportation. We would have to have a course for it. And then I was in charge of instructor training. So I'd have to teach in my instructors, what is the Pimsleur method? How do you change your vernacular when you're talking to somebody who's visual, audio, kinesthetic? What way do they learn? How do you make the information retainable? And the most important lesson that came down to every instructor we ever had is the most important lesson I try to teach to everybody that I'm trying to help reach financial freedom. If an instructor can't explain something simply in simple terms, they don't understand it enough to do it themselves.
Agreed.
When it comes to investing, I look at every aspect of how I invest as though I was going to have to teach this to somebody. So you guys both do the same thing. Don't know if it was on purpose or if it's just a natural skill you've developed. But Mike, when you said I rattled off, here's my buy box in the beginning. This is, I created the buy box. This was the buy box. You could rattle it off in less than 30 seconds. You know exactly what you were hunting for. I know that if I have 2 minutes with somebody, I can explain how I retired with 100% real estate, no stocks, no business. So I had to be diversified in 2 ways. I know the area that I invest. I know the asset class that actually gives me the yield I'm looking for, and then the economic drivers that make it to where I want to invest in these areas. I know enough to where I can explain it within 2 minutes to where somebody can understand why I chose my format for investing. I didn't go, I need to be elite, skilled at investing in this. I looked at it from, if I'm going to invest and put all of my future at risk, if I can make this in a way that I can teach somebody, if I can show somebody how I did it, then I will understand it well enough to be able to do it myself, which made me elite at what I do. So it's absolutely 100% agree. I didn't do it because that was the goal. Would have been nice. I say this every time I talk about finding the book One Rental at a Time, which I finished narrating, which will be coming out on Audible soon.
Yes.
I found it in 2018. Had I found it in 2012, life would have been so much easier for those years between there. So I agree, being elite is important. And if I can add a little bit, if what you're becoming elite at, you look at it from the perspective of, how would I teach somebody this? Because the highest form of learning is teaching. Mm-hmm. If you could think of how would I structure this information for them, you'll understand it better yourself.
Thank you very much, guys. Again, we'll get into step 3 in a minute, but before we do, Matt, where can people find you?
Lumberjack Landlord, YouTube and Instagram, and the amazing event this Sunday.
There you go. And Dion?
You can find me right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom, where I am usually much less articulate than I just was.
I concur.